my pleasure to introduce one of our newest members. In fact, I think at this point he's the newest member, Michael Patrick. And hopefully we'll get a chance to get a better understanding of who he is and what he does in the world. And in addition to that, hopefully you take away something today that will help you as a coach or with whatever other types of work that you do. And so just a brief introduction of who Michael is. He spent 22 years as a scientist with a master's degree in analytical chemistry. And he was employed in chemical manufacturing and also did research on chemistry, biology, and biomedical engineering products, which sounds exactly like every coach I know. Part of the way into that career, he decided to have an adjunct career as a massage therapist, and he's been doing that for 12 years. And then this past year, he decided to add yet a little bit more training, actually a lot more training and a lot more focus, and became certified as a professional coach as part of, as he mentioned, the first LGBT training offered at Easton by Damien Goldfarb. In addition to that, he also became a certified Kripalu yoga teacher. And instead of playing with chemicals and disciplines that are highly academic, he's now working with individuals and their bodies and incorporating massage, yoga, and work-life balance coaching as either standalone modalities or in conjunction with one another. So welcome, Michael, and anything you'd like to add to who you are and what you do in the world before we get started on some deeper things about transformation through the body.
Thank you, Dave. Actually, I think you covered most of it. The other thing would just really be nuances. I worked as a safety professional at the university, so there's also that whole area of laboratory safety and dealing with inspections and working with all kinds of different people. So I've been finding that all of these really varied experiences that have made me who I am today have totally primed me to be able to do the work that I'm taking on now. So I just wanted to add that little piece.
Okay, great, thank you. So one of the things that you put at the very beginning of your biographical statement that you sent says that you elevate. So can you tell us a little bit more about what that means, especially as a way of explaining how you approach your work as a coach or a yoga teacher or a massage therapist?
Absolutely. Well, there's a little story about how I came about to that awareness that what I do is elevate. And Brian may recall at the LGBT coach training that we had, it was actually the first one in April. And one of our colleagues, Jeff, led us through some breath work. And during that breath work session, I found myself just getting into different yoga-like poses as I was getting into the breathing. And it just came into my mind at that time as I was elevating my hips and having myself in this very stable posture that what I actually do in my work is elevate. I serve as a very stable and solid foundation. And from that, as a massage therapist and as a coach, I am able then to either provide tools or act in such a way that people are able to go away from whatever that session is, feeling elevated, feeling enriched. So that to me is actually an expression of my higher life's purpose or my mission, my own personal mission statement, is to elevate others. And coaching and massage therapy and now yoga are simply just different means to do that. So that's actually where that came from. And all of the work that I do is essentially a way of cultivating a person's being, or a person's sense of mind and body and spirit. So all of those things certainly contribute to that.
Great. So I love that concept that, it's all about elevating. And for you, that came as knowledge through your body rather than academically, which is your original orientation, which was very, very academic and research-based and what have you.
Yes.
So
go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
I was going to say, the thing that's interesting about being a scientist and having a scientist mind is that I'm always taking things in, and I'm analyzing them, and I'm processing them, I'm breaking things down and coming up with strategies and ways of acting that come right out of that. So, like, specifically as a massage therapist, I'm taking in information about what I feel beneath the skin with the muscles and the tension. And then I'm working, I'm thinking about that. What's my next move? How can I elevate what it is that I'm reacting to here through my actions? So that really is kind of a common thread that runs through everything that I do. And it is definitely unique to my approach as a scientist, and using this very different mindset in different ways.
Well, that certainly explains a little bit about what this next question was going to be about, is how did you get from the master's degree in chemistry to where you are today? So part of it is about taking in information and synthesizing it, but what, if anything else is germane to the journey that you were on to get from here to there?
Yeah, that is really interesting. As I remember looking back at myself in my early 20s when I was in college, I had a very difficult time coming up with a major, and I finally did settle on combined sciences just because I tried so many different things and I had all these different hours, and I realized that I could just get a degree in science in general just from having all of these classes. It finally didn't click until I did graduate research, undergraduate research, when I was a senior. And then I decided that chemistry was something that I can do because it would help people eventually in those types of things. But at the same time, I had this sense that by the time I was 40, I wasn't going to be doing chemistry. And I knew that there was some other thing in my life that I was going to do. I just had no idea what it was. So probably maybe 10 years after that, after I graduated and started to work, I realized that the work that I was doing as a chemist did eventually help people. But it ended up being very, very delayed where I would see any results from that. So I had been working in a company that made fluorescent dyes that other researchers use to study cancer and genetics and different types of diseases. So I was certainly contributing something, to society, to the betterment, to the elevation of humanity. And then when I started to do research in academic research labs, my projects were about studying heart arrhythmias and developing probes that would be used in research for that, and also research in cancer diagnostic probes. So again, these were all things that really do help humanity, but I needed to have a faster payoff, a faster way of knowing that I was making an impact. So for me, it was very natural as for a career in massage therapy, because I had always connected with touch. As a child, I used to walk on my father's back, and I would massage his feet when he came home from work, and it just seemed to be something very, very innate with me. And as a gay man, after I came out and had developed a chosen family, I found myself massaging my friends just as a way to improve their lives. I had a father figure, my mentor, my gay dad, whatever we want to call him, and he was HIV positive, and at the time, this was in the early 90s, and things were much, much different, and I wouldn't know from day to day what the situation was going to be. So this was my way of reaching out and bringing comfort to another person's life who also happened to be very close to me. So with all of this kind of driving me, I decided that massage therapy would be a really good fit for me. And I went back to school while I was working full-time doing research, and I became a massage therapist. And I originally had intended to leave right then and there and become a full-time massage therapist. But as fate would have it, I met another professor at the university who was doing research in biomedical engineering, which really, really fascinated me. And we also had a very strong connection and a very easy collaborative approach. I basically had the one piece of fluorescent technology, and he had the other piece of engineering that would really work towards improving devices that are used in cardiovascular interventions like stents or artificial heart valves. So I went through a bit of a research renaissance where I started to come up with my own ideas, and I viewed myself as a collaborator, and I had a contribution to make. So I decided then that what I would do is stay in research so that I could do this work and keep a massage practice part-time. And that was basically how I worked for 10 years. I did research and I had a part-time massage practice, which looking back at it now, I just wonder how I managed to do all of that. It was basically 1.5 jobs for 10 years. So it eventually got to the point where I was interested in coaching, and this came about through my involvement as a massage therapist and also going to Easton Mountain. In 2012 was when they had the first ever Gay Coaches Alliance conference at Easton Mountain. And there was one particular program there that was called The Body as a Pathway to Deeper Coaching. And in my work as a massage therapist, I would often coach people, so to speak, in how they could be more in their body throughout the day and thus reduce their stress in their life by being more present. So this really appealed to me, and I decided to go to the coaches conference, not being a coach, but just simply being interested in this one particular workshop that was happening. And that really planted a lot of seeds for me to become a coach. So this kind of stayed on hold for a while, and after that happened, I switched jobs and I worked in safety. And just about the time that had happened was when Damien was putting the call out for the first ever LGBT coach training program at Easton Mountain. And as soon as I heard first ever and LGBT and Easton Mountain and coaching all in one sentence, I thought I need to be in on the ground level for this. Being a pioneer is what research is all about, and there's that innovator in me that wants to be part of something, and that has never been done before. Kind of like recording this video call for the coaches. So that really started the whole cascade of events for me with this coach training program. And in the program, I was immersed in coaching and surrounded by coaches, got coaches. Terry Hildebrandt was the professional coach that I was assigned to. And wow, those coaching sessions really brought clarity to what I wanted to do. And once I got that clarity, then I decided it was time for me to become a yoga instructor as well, which is something that I always wanted to do. And I think I'll leave it at that for now if you have some other direction you want to go. And I know I said a lot in there, but it's been a pretty incredible journey.
Well, I'm almost speechless. It's like, wow, that is an amazing adventure. And I so admire, how you've paid attention all the way along. A couple of things stick out. The first one is I want to thank you for reminding us, just how important touch was during AIDS and HIV, when so much of the world was afraid and fearful of touch, that there were men like you and a number of men that I know on this call as well, that were not only unafraid to touch, but actually sought out opportunities to bring touch as a way to, bring men back into their bodies and to, connect them with the world again. And that is such a gift. And to come full circle on that, I was talking with an acquaintance the other day, and one of the things that they're looking at in medicine now is how can we bring more touch to patient interactions, particularly when they're in the hospital, because somehow they think that would be useful.
And
something we've known all along.
Just to interject one quick thing about touch and the whole period during the 90s, when people were afraid to touch anyone who had HIV or AIDS. We can't underestimate the power of touch. Touch gives a sense of reassurance. And I think another thing along with it is the sense that it's going to be okay. No matter what it is, it's going to be okay. And that sense of hope is incredibly powerful. And touch is a really, really great communicator of that. My mentor, he would always say to me that, he didn't always say a lot, but because words were never necessary with me. And I think that's because touch spoke so many volumes.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they're, trying to bring back into hospitals. And so instead of going in and just, finding the vein and sticking the needle in, the training now is to go in, put a hand on a shoulder or an arm and say, hi, how are you? I'm so-and-so, and this is what's going to happen now. But the touch is the first thing, or among the first things that happen rather than a procedure. And it's that whole idea of comfort and going out into a hopefully much larger audience. The other thing I noticed, Michael, about, when you were talking is you said you had a career and a half for a while there. And so one of the things that you say that you do is you do work-life balance coaching. And I find that this is something that a lot of individuals are seeking. And I'm curious what approach you bring to it, because usually a lot of folks who are looking for work-life balance are trying to figure out, how can I maintain the crazy work schedule that I have and still have some kind of a personal life, which probably isn't the answer. So what is it that you bring to that interaction with work-life, coaching clients, the individuals you work with those things on?
Yes, that's a really good question. And, it is a very common situation where people are seeking work-life balance. They want to perform well at work. They want to have a good family life. And another thing is a sense of play, or a sense of time for themselves. And this can all be very tricky to balance. And using the kind of way, well, if you want to have more work-life balance, then schedule in yet another activity that's going to give you work-life balance, which in reality, it's just going to give you a fuller schedule and probably negative feelings about what you're not doing or what you're not keeping up with. So I think that, first of all, getting into the body, the embodiment sense, is a real way of getting at the truth. So it's an opportunity for people to really take a good look at their lives and say, what is really important to me? And getting into the body is a way of cutting through all of the mental stuff of what we should be doing and really feeling, when does our heart light up? When do we feel alive? And the body actually holds a lot of answers for what is really truly important to us. And, you know, a good way that I gauge on what direction it is that I need to be going in my life is, do I feel elevated when I am pursuing a certain activity? Do I feel open? Do I feel that my heart is expanding and that my energy is reaching out into the world? And when I feel that way, I know that that's a guide, that it's a direction that my being wants to be going in. So I think that there are lots of opportunities for using the body as a way to really become clear as to what priorities are in life. And one of the things that I have noticed through my own personal practice in yoga is that yoga changes us from the inside out. So there's a lot of inner balance between mind, body, and spirit that happens on the mat. And particularly the type of yoga that I teach, Kripalu yoga, emphasizes transformation and personal growth. And this is often done by becoming aware of sensations as they arise in the body during a yoga pose, and being at the edge of that sensation, and then learning to be with that sensation, watching it through the breath and through feeling, and allowing it to transform into whatever it is that it transforms from. And that's actually where the growth is taking place. Kripalu Yoga also emphasizes a way of integrating the effects, taking in what just happened, making sense of it within the body, within the self. And those are really two of the components that work very closely with coaching for me, to where the process of yoga brings about these inner changes. And I think what actually sets the clients up to be ready for work-life coaching is to be observing those changes that happen within, noticing what is different from their inner world and their outer world. And coaching can come in to really make the changes that are needed. Sometimes those changes may be totally changing the outside world, like getting a new job, going into a new career, getting a separation from a relationship that's not working. And other times those changes can be finding something that really works, that really fits well into the life, and going deeper into that. And that's really something for me that happened with yoga and also with coaching in my own personal life. And I knew that becoming a massage therapist and a yoga instructor and a coach all at one time was the path that I needed to go down, because I felt so alive with it. And in all of this, I have gotten so much better work-life balance because I'm really clear about why I'm here on this earth and what I'm doing. And that really helps to direct my decisions and what I add to my plate and what I take away from it.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a lot of things I hear in there, but there's a couple of things that I have a particular curiosity about. The first is that so many individuals that I encounter with work-life balance, with a desire to balance work and life a little bit better, frequently don't have the physical body that they would like to have. Usually there's a lack of sleep, a lack of exercise or movement, poor diet, nutrition, way too much stress and its effects on the body, possibly, alcohol and or other substance abuse, or excessive use if it's not abuse. So there's a lot of body stuff going on. So how do you work with somebody to just begin to be aware of what's happening with your body, or does yoga kind of jump over all of that and they have an opportunity to see something different and then the other stuff follows?
Actually, yeah, that's a very good question. And for me, and this has been my own personal journey, massage has been an entry point into this whole process. Because massage is therapeutic, it can focus on healing the wounds of the past, so to speak. So physical injuries, stress, strains, and it actually gets the body to a place where the body starts to feel normal. And that's really step one, just getting all of this other stuff out of the way and getting to the point where, all right, I finally feel like a human being again, rather than like some sort of worm or some sort of machine. And that is a passive entry point. Basically, all they need to do is get some body work, and then they start to feel like a normal person. From that perspective, then, in my model of doing this, that's a really great entry point to get into yoga. Now that they're feeling normal, it's an opportunity for them to start exploring their body, to move in their body, and to explore breath and explore different ways of connecting with the moment, and also adding movement into that. And then, of course, with yoga, there is so much personal growth, so much awareness. It's very, very present-based. And with all of that growth and maturity, that really sets the stage for coaching, which, of course, is definitely more proactive for the client, more empowering for the client. They take the reins and create the future that it is that they're looking for. So this can be a slow and gradual process. And I think that can be a very lasting pathway if it's explored in a way that allows the person to grow at each step.
Yeah, interesting. So another way of saying what I think I heard you say was that it really starts with massage as a way of restoring the connection to a client's body, so
Absolutely.
that they have the ability to do a little restoration work before you start, remodeling or doing something different. And then the yoga begins to work on that basis of restoration. And that was actually my second question out of what you had said previously, which is a lot of people either don't feel comfortable with or completely disregard feelings. So when you say, what is it that you want? What is it your heart wants? And what is it that you're feeling is, your purpose and all of those things? So many people discount that. And it sounds like yoga is then a way to begin to work that piece of it. Is that right?
Exactly. Yoga teaches us to be in our bodies, to be with our emotions, and to be at peace with ourselves. And that is a huge, huge thing, because coming from a place of peace and acceptance and being in one's body and being comfortable with one's emotions and being comfortable with unpleasant emotions that may arise, that is really where the blocks are removed in coaching. So getting that foundation of becoming comfortable in the body and in the being is really what yoga does.
So I understand that for you, this is an integrated, process, and just that you could actually work with an individual through all three of these steps: the massage, the yoga, and the coaching. If I'm a coach on the call today, I may not have the skills or the training or even the inclination to offer massage or yoga. How could I work with a client maybe to get them started with those things, and and also to begin a coaching relationship? What would I want to tell them, and what would I want them to look for in a massage therapist and a yoga practitioner or a yoga program?
Yeah, that's really great. First of all, I just did want to clarify that when I do work with people through this whole process, I may start with them as a massage therapist and move them forward into yoga. If someone who is my massage client wants to become a coaching client, I need to stop the massage relationship while I am coaching them. So for that whole period that I'm coaching them, they are not my massage client. After the coaching relationship has ended or stopped, then I can resume massage with them if that's what they want to do. However, not to leave them dry and out of their body, they can certainly become yoga clients while they are being coached as well, which probably will synergize the whole process. So that being said, I would say if you have a coaching client and they are looking to get into their bodies and they are feeling sick and they are feeling less than human, to go and search out a massage therapist who is skilled in bringing centering to the body, bringing awareness and presence to the body. Someone who's going to introduce some other elements besides just basically sitting on a massage table and letting the therapist do all the work. Somebody who is going to work with the massage client in a way to get more into their body and to start that whole process of, I'm responsible for my body, I'm responsible for being in my body, and instituting self-care that's going to go beyond the massage table into their everyday lives. So it may be just taking a few minutes to check in with their body while they're sitting in their chair at work. I mean, that was something that I certainly did when I worked in the research lab. And I became aware of these things, just a way to ground the self every day. In terms of searching out a yoga program, it's very important to have a yoga program that meets your needs. One of the things that I'm coming into here as I've become a yoga instructor is that a lot of people are turned off by yoga because they see this super fast-paced kind of gym-style yoga that's very vigorous, very aggressive, and there's no way that their body can do that. So I would say to, first of all, seek out a yoga program that meets your body's needs. So it may be a beginner's class. It may be a class that uses a lot of props. Hire a yoga teacher to do private tutorial or classes that are built around the needs of you as a student. And I cannot recommend Kripalu Yoga more strongly or more emphatically because this yoga is not workout yoga, but rather it is work in yoga. So it is yoga that works on transforming from within. And it's done at a slower pace. It takes a very gentle approach. One of our mantras, so to speak, would be never force the body. And being kind with the body and being kind with the self really extends a lot off the yoga mat. And that is one of the things that Kripalu and some of the other traditions do emphasize is practicing the concepts that you learn on the yoga mat, being with sensation, respecting your body's limits, being kind to yourself, and applying those off the mat into your everyday life. So I just did a yoga class yesterday, and the theme of it was to introduce Kripala Yoga. And my underlying theme with all of that is kindness and compassion, and especially for the self. And throughout my practice, I would say various things like, how would it feel to be kind to your body in this pose now? And just that line of thinking of coming from a place of kindness and compassion certainly goes a long way, because it gets into the head. And now I'm thinking in my everyday life, how could I be more kind and compassionate to myself? Does that mean I'm forcing myself to do something? Am I forcing myself to push harder than I need to and creating more stress? So I would say definitely seek out a yoga program that's going to grow with you, and encourage you to live the type of life that you are wanting as part of your long-term goals of work-life balance.
So you talked about taking the lessons from the mat into your regular life.
Right.
And so my experience with individuals with challenges around work-life balance is, if they ever really stop to look at things, they probably aren't being very kind to themselves. And in a lot of cases, if there are families and partners involved, they aren't being very kind to them either. So, sitting at the dinner table with a family or spouse and, catching up on the last 3 emails, or something like that doesn't seem very kind. Is that the kind of lesson that actually transfers and people start engaging in those behaviors and go, wait a minute, this isn't very kind?
Yeah, actually, I mean, one of the goals of yoga is to just simply observe the self. We observe the breathing, we observe the thoughts, we observe the body as it is moving into different positions. And a key hallmark of Kripala Yoga is self-observation without judgment. So if I am able to observe myself in this physical position and not judging, saying, oh, I can't do this pose like the guy next to me, or I was really good at doing this yesterday, how come I can't move today? And I'm such a bad yogi. If I could free myself from those kinds of judgments and get into the habit of practicing that just on my yoga mat, I'm finding then that I can take those little things into other parts of life. And those same kinds of things, not being judgmental of myself, can very easily apply to any other person in my life, whether it's my husband that I live with, or people that I encounter. If I can become more compassionate for myself, I can certainly become, it's a natural spillover to become more compassionate for others. So it's an inevitable thing of internalizing yoga, having that awareness, and then it just simply permeates the rest of life. Sometimes with conscious effort, and sometimes it just happens.
Okay, excellent. So we're getting to the place where, we make a decision between, do we continue on or do we move into, what are you working on? But what I'd like to do is give you an opportunity to, maybe there was a couple of things that you wanted to say that we haven't gotten to yet. So a couple of ideas that you want to leave us with. How's that sound?
That sounds great. That sounds great. There is one thing that I did want to mention, and one thing is that because I do different things, I'm a massage therapist, a yoga instructor, and a coach. In some ways, I've set the bar higher for myself because I need to be good at 3 things, not just one thing. And in a way, it's made a little bit more work for me, but in a way, it has also made things easier. And one thing that I've noticed with having these 3 different modalities is that there's an initial barrier of trust and credibility that I need to overcome if I'm in either one of these modalities. People need to trust me and believe that I'm a good massage therapist, the same thing with being a yoga teacher and also with being a coach. Once that trust and credibility has been won over and they experience my abilities in one area, that makes transferring to another one of those modalities seamless, easy, and almost a no-brainer. So it's kind of a way of filling the pipeline in different ways. I have people who can come into me as a yoga instructor and they can go in either direction. They can go further into coaching or they can go further into massage. And entry points at any one of those can certainly feed the other things that I'm doing. So I just wanted to bring up actually the upside of being versatile and doing multiple things.
Mm-hmm. That's great. So at this point, I think we're just about needing to move on, but a couple of things before we do. So in some of the things that you just said, Michael, one at the beginning and one just now, I think the promotion committee, which we affectionately call the Hookup and Connection Committee at GCA, would love to maybe have you do a short video with them about, you never know what happens when you come to the conference based on your initial experience.
Yeah.
And then also just now, since our theme this year is about tribe, you know, why tribe matters, because that was really powerful what you said about, I'm part of that tribe of engineers and scientists, and there's a way that I can communicate that somebody who isn't part of the tribe can. So I think those are both really, really powerful ideas. The other thing I wanted to come back to is that one of the things that you've decided to do as part of your journey is to attend the conference this coming year and actually make a presentation, which my understanding is it's been approved. And so maybe you can just give us a little bit of information on that before we turn it back to Robert and we wrap up the call.
Sure, that would be great. So yeah, I shortly after I joined the GCA, Michael Cohen asked if I would, that it was really interesting what I do, and asked if I would consider coming up with a workshop. And I was still in my yoga teacher training then, and I took that idea with me to training, and I let it percolate. And what came out of that was a workshop that I'm calling the Yoga of Coaching. And part of my experience as a yoga practitioner and also as a yoga teacher is the observation of what's going on in the body and being with those sensations that come up in the body, learning to breathe with them, to feel what is happening, and to relax and to watch and to allow whatever happens. And in the whole concept of taking that off the mat into everyday life, I thought this is a really great opportunity to apply this to coaching, because oftentimes clients have emotions that arise in coaching sessions. They may have feelings or tightness or sensation that comes up in their body. And if a coach is able to work with them to be with that rather than avoid it, that can actually transform into a different type of emotion. So for example, I was at a meeting with the bank to deal with my IRA account after I left my full-time job. And they didn't have the product that I wanted. And I remember walking away feeling really, really angry. And it wasn't so much that it was about a product. So I sat with my anger and I felt it in my chest, and I watched it and I observed it and I allowed it. And that shifted into fear. And what it really came up for me was that I was afraid that I would not be getting my life settled and that I would be dealing with these things And fear was definitely something that I could deal with, because then I just would do whatever I had to address those fears, rather than having this kind of nebulous anger feeling and not really knowing what the anger was all about, other than some kind of silly product that they didn't offer that I wanted. So I think that there's a lot of opportunity for this practice. And then also as coaches, during sessions, we can have things that we want to avoid. And in learning to be with sensations that arise in our bodies and in our beings, we can become more effective in doing so.
Awesome. Well, I will look forward to that presentation. And sounds like it's very much in alignment with the longer historic arc of yoga, which is really something much more than, as you said, just a series of poses.
Exactly.
So thank you for being so generous with us today, and for being a member of the Alliance. And we hope to hear more from you in the future.
Great,
and
great.
With that, go ahead.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.